Welcome to our sixth module, How to Define a Stakeholder's Involvement Plan. Listen and involve. That is the secret. Know your stakeholders. Make contact with stakeholders, know how to identify and choose them. To establish and develop the best plan for the relationships with and management of individuals or organizations that can positively or negatively influence the result of the execution and progress of your project. According to the main categories, individuals within their organization, external individuals from other organizations to be involved, the audiences of the project, with respect to a diversified framework of stakeholders, the techniques and tools to identify, classify and manage the various stakeholders need to be identified. Classify stakeholders. Understand differences and priorities. The two variables to keep in mind in the study phase are interest and power. There are four types of figures with interest in the project and power to intervene in decisions on the project itself. Marginal stakeholder, low interest, low power. They live the project indirectly, without being able to influence it. Institutional stakeholder, low interest, high power. They participate indirectly in the project, but exercising a control and/or a support function. Operational stakeholder, high interest, low power. They are involved in a significant way, with little influence on decisions. Key stakeholder, high interest, high power, personally interested in the results of the project with a strong power to intervene in decisions. The tools of interaction. Creative maps. The creative approach combined with graphic visualizations makes it possible to produce operational diagrams to better organize the start of the dialogue process and to answer questions that affect planning. According to the use, they help focus and highlight the characteristics of the interlocutors, such as, for example, economic and emotional value, motivations, requested information, best communication, opinions and comments, influences generated, potential weight and support, possible oppositions, other stakeholders. The specifics that help make sense of the map and understand who needs to be included and involved. The selection phase. Differences based on target. To visualize a map, you can follow the four most common steps. 1. Identify. 2. Analyze. 3. Prioritize. 4. Involve. Referring to the different existing models is a basis for development. Useful models to apply are matrix and organizational models for effective planning. Accordingly to a matrix organization, key stakeholders are located relative to two axes representing power and influence. Also, the organizational model of networks is useful to take into account, with a wheel consisting of a central hub and spokes to indicate a network with a center of reference, hub, and various peripheral locations, spokes. Analysis techniques. A mix of activities to support the operational plan. Once the data has been collected and the map of the functional scenario recorded, analysis allows the information to be rationalized, the stakeholders to group by their respective levels, the best communication strategies and initiatives developed to enhance the project hypothesis, possibly to seek further interlocutors. Among the most popular analysis tools, structured interviews, research surveys on the sector or on a socio-demographic sample, opinion research, focus groups, media analysis. Within the plan, or as an integration, a communication plan should be provided which is itself specific for the various groups of stakeholders. Also in different languages if necessary. With regard to the involvement phase, guidelines must be provided for managing feedback and emergencies. Create an appropriate plan for the objectives. The flexible sections. Once collected, information must be managed by adapting the scope of the stakeholder register and the communications plan to the needs of the project. In each section there should be a description of the purpose, timing and target audience of the activities. Among the various sections highlighted is that in which the management criteria, the procedures for starting and applying policies and procedures, such as surveys, audits, focus groups and workshops, should be included. In addition to that dedicated to the budget necessary to implement the communication strategies. Manage and control engagement. Timing is a crucial point. Management is the most delicate phase together with that of control. The startup precludes the necessary continuity over time according to deadlines well planned in advance. Progress must be recorded, communicated and analyzed. The interpretation of the results then becomes the axis on which to build the optimal path. In fact, analysis must not be thought of as an endpoint, but as a starting point in deciding the methods and initiatives to be carried out. These functions in turn must be monitored as they can change and evolve over time. Updating the timing has a strategic purpose. Shared vision. Strategy in the early phases. Vision directives and strategic project objectives can be agreed on in advance with the stakeholders. In this way, the work can be simpler and more fluid, less extended over time and decidedly more concrete immediately. By involving stakeholders in the process of defining priorities, they are much more likely to be in favor of the decisions that will be taken and followed on an operational level. In the initial engagement phase, maximum attention should be paid to ensure substantial efficiency and performance. The register supports this by taking into account time and development and allows management of an immediate instrumental check. The details of the roadmap. The continuous line of information. It is important to ensure that all stakeholders are in line with the information. Planning encounters and meetings with the various interested parties allows you to communicate the project status, provide an update and explain what will happen in the future. Autonomous access to the project roadmap avoids misunderstandings and differing levels of information. In this case, it is possible to rely on the most popular platforms and tools for this activity. Create consensus. Agree on priorities. Be prepared, clear and persuasive. The plan of involvement remains the project's central basis to which the personal contributions of the managers and the work team must be added. The contribution of storytelling and narration of the project idea is essential in compliance with realistic, clear and convincing content. It is fundamental that the themes are presented in a language that is suitable and appropriate for the target audience, which may vary from time to time. It is better to avoid technical terms in contexts outside specific sectors. Preparation must be made to face objections and contrary ideas with arguments aimed at making the positive consequences better understood. Communicate the progress and completion status using graphic displays that include effects such as colors, archives, images, titles that are immediately understandable and underline the differentiation of priorities and the steps completed. The Destination Management Organization, DMO, destination management consists of the coordinated management of all the elements that make up a tourism destination. Destination management takes a strategic approach to link up these sometimes very separate elements for the better management of the destination. Joined-up management can help to avoid overlapping functions and duplication of effort with regards to promotion, visitor services, training, business support and identify any management gaps that are not being addressed. Some strategic approaches in the field of tourism. The World Tourism Organization works to provide guidance and share good practices on policies and governance models aimed to effectively support the tourism sector at the different levels, national, regional and local. The European Charter for Sustainable Tourism, ECST. Quality sustainable tourism will be good for parks and good for people. Sustainable tourism in European protected areas provides a meaningful quality experience, safeguards natural and cultural values, supports local livelihoods and quality of life and is economically viable. Through awarding the European Charter for Sustainable Tourism, ECST, in protected areas, Europark seeks to safeguard cultural and natural values by stimulating quality sustainable tourism, engendering partnerships to support local livelihoods, increase awareness of the need for sustainability, and promote international cooperation. Logos for parks, partners and tour operators. Europark developed different versions to be used by sustainable destinations, parks awarded with European Charter for Sustainable Tourism in protected areas. Sustainable partners, following the Charter Part 2 methodology. Sustainable tour operators, following the Charter Part 3 methodology. Strategic approach in sport management and the relevance of sport in society. A powerful illustration of this was the recent resolution adopted by the General Assembly of the United Nations, recognizing the positive impact of sport for the COVID-19 recovery. The resolution, which was adopted by consensus, reaffirms the role of sport as a global accelerator for peace and sustainable development for all. It calls on all the UN member states to include sport and physical activity in their COVID recovery plans. This resolution went even further by underlining the autonomy of sport and the leadership role of the IOC and the IPC. The resolution welcomes with appreciation all upcoming Olympic and Paralympic Games, in particular those to be held in Tokyo in 2021. In Beijing in 2022, in Paris in 2024, in Milano Cortina, Italy, in 2026 and in Los Angeles, United States of America, in 2028, as well as the Youth Olympic Games to be held in Dhaka in 2026, and calls upon future hosts of such games and other member states to include sport, as appropriate, in conflict prevention activities and to ensure the effective implementation of the Olympic truce during the Games. The importance of good agreement to support a project. The process of negotiation, communication back and forth for the purpose of making a joint decision, a way of finding a mutually acceptable solution to a shared problem, achieving an ideal outcome, a wise decision, efficiently and amicably agreed upon. Options for negotiation style are hard, controlling. Hard bargaining is adversarial. You assume that your opponent is your enemy and the only way you can win is if he or she loses. So you bargain in a very aggressive, competitive way. Soft, giving in. Soft bargaining is just the opposite. Your relationship with your opponent is so important that you concede much more easily than you should. You get taken advantage of in your effort to please, and while agreement is reached easily, it is seldom a wise one. Principled, much more effective, good negotiations consist of a relentless search for the third alternative. We humans are presently conditioned to expect our relationships to be win or lose. We see most situations from an either, or point of view. Either I win or I lose. It has to be one or the other. There is a third alternative. May be harder to find, but there almost always exists a third way of doing things where no one loses. Or at worst are assured that the loss has been minimized and fairly shared. Thank you for your attention. Let's go to the final test.